Hello everyone, welcome back. So this time we're going to be learning about something called a loop in Python. Now why do you want to know this? Well, first let me give you a brief story of my history. So imagine this, you're an engineering PhD candidate at Western Michigan University, and you're running this program for your boss, and it's not very hard. You have this text file, just a long string of text. It says your variables are X, Y, and Z. You want to run it for this length of time. So very simple to type, very easy to read. And then you run it. And it sends something out and you check and see, did it work? Did it fail? And you do this over and over again. But sadly, while it's easy to write these, you have to write thousands of them. Thousands of these input files and check thousands of these output files. Wouldn't it be nice if you had known some way to automate the process? If someone told you that programming could do in seconds what you spent weeks of your life doing? I know this example seems strangely specific, and it's because it happened to me. I spent weeks making these little text files, just literally opening the document, changing number, save as a new document. Open the document, change number, save as a new document. Over and over and over and over again. It was terrible. And then one day, I, as a joke, began learning Python. I was like, I'm gonna make the game Snake play itself. And it eventually hit me that, you know what? I could probably make Python do all this for me. And it literally, I did millions upon millions of input files in seconds, just because of loops. So what is a loop in Python? A loop in Python is, you're telling it, okay, I've got this little bit of code and I wanna do it like 10 times. And you could, if you wanted to, write that out 10 times, like print high, print high, print high, over and over again. Or you could use a loop. Now the most common we run into is called a for loop. You do something for a certain number of times. So, how do you tell it how many times? Well, typically you give it a list and it just counts. It says, okay, there's 10 things in the bag, I'm going to do this 10 times. There's 20 things in the bag, I'll do this 20 times. So forth, so on. It might look something like this. We see you got my list. It's got 2 items in it, 2 and 1. And I say for I in my list, print I'm in a loop. Okay, there's 2 items in my list, so if I run this, I'm in a loop, I'm in a loop. Fantastic, it works. Okay, so hopefully that makes sense. Now whatever is inside of the loop is what gets repeated. Now you see how there's this little tab right here? That tells me I'm inside the loop. If I suddenly tab backwards, so I'm no longer tabbed like this right here, that's not in the loop. That is in the loop. Okay, now let's look at each of the parts of this loop one by one to figure out what's going on. So, I'm going to start with the first line. So for I in my underscore list. My list was just a list. To start a for loop, you always write for. It'll usually change color depending on the editor you're using. Then I have some variable name. This is called a dummy or looping variable. I usually use I. Just be very careful that you don't use this variable anywhere else in your program or else you might mess up everything. I did that a few times. It was very frustrating because it's one of those areas that you just don't quite see what's happening. So be careful with that. So for I in my list, now I, the looping variable, will change to be whatever the first and then the second and then the third element in my list is. So if we go back to here, the first element was 2. So the first time I went through this loop, I was equal to the word 2. The second time, I was equal to the word 1. If there had been more, it would have been the same thing. Now I didn't use my looping variable. I don't have to. But I could have if I wanted to. Okay. You then write in to tell Python you want to look in something to start counting through. I'm going to look in this list and see what's in there. I'm going to loop for however many items are in that list. There are 5 items, I'll loop 5 times. And my list is simply the name of the list. I didn't actually have to make it beforehand. I could have just made it right there. I could have done like square bracket, something, 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 square bracket, and been done. Okay, finally, you close the top line of your for loop with a colon. Colon. That is essential. It won't work otherwise. It will usually throw you an error, but it might not. It might get really confused and do some very weird things. Programs can do magic when they break. I'm not talking like fireballs, so that'll be really awesome to like, I miscoded it and now I can summon lightning. That's the kind of error I want to have. Boom. Okay, and then finally you have something inside of your loop. You have to have something in your loop. You can't do a for loop with nothing inside of it, else it just breaks. So whatever is tabbed underneath it will be in the for loop, and whatever continues to be underneath it will be in that loop. Now, let me show you an example of this. We have it right here. So we have my list again, 1, 2. For I in my list, so I is my looping variable. It's going to be 1 first, and then it will be 2 because it goes in order. It's going to say print I'm in the loop, print I'm also in the loop. And this one right here, you see how it's tabbed backwards. It is no longer in the loop. So this is broken out of the loop. Only the things that are tabbed 1 tab forward are inside of this loop. As a note, if I had other things inside of here, I could have multiple tabs forward. But just anything that is tabbed further forward than the for statement is inside of that for statement until I reach a space or something else that's not tabbed. So if I run this, you'll see it prints I'm in the loop and I'm also in the loop twice. And it prints I'm not in the loop once because these two were in the loop. There were 2 elements, had to do it twice. This one was not in the loop. Okay, so with that, we've got a basic idea of how for loops work. I hope this helped. And next time we're going to be jumping into some more. We're going to do some examples to really drive it home. Well, hope you enjoyed this, and I'll see you all next time. Bye-bye.